Conscious Collaboration brings together entrepreneurs, changemakers, and thought leaders. We aim to highlight the people that embody the idea of aligned mind, body, and business. Each week, we share, discuss, and learn from the various experiences and ideas of our guest experts. Through our discovery, we find a path to an aligned mind, body, and business.
What up, y'all? It's Emily.
And I'm Lisa, and we are the Conscious Collaboration. And we're back with you today to talk a little bit more about that subject we did a few episodes ago about that first year in business. And we wanted to be really candid, really show up and share with you all the ins and outs of that first year, because we were hearing from our friends that they were really despondent about seeing in social media the first year in business and 50K months, and and they were feeling like they weren't getting very much traction or even having an understanding of what their systems or processes might be. So we felt it really important to show up and share with you in that episode what we experienced and are experiencing in our first year of business. And we're going to share a little bit more with you today, and go a little bit deeper into the idea of building a business that's sustainable, and becoming more a part of your life, and also more of the joy and fun. Right, girls?
Yes.
Yeah. So let's jump into the joy and fun before we get into,
Yay!
the other stuff. So
Because it is fun. I wouldn't know
Yeah.
you guys otherwise.
Right. And
Exactly.
of course, if it were all bad, we wouldn't still be here.
Yeah, we're still here for a reason, right?
Mhm.
I don't know. Am I chained up here? Show up to work every day? No, I mean it really is. It is fun. I mean, there is that. If you like to show up for a challenge, I mean, challenges can be and should be overcome every day. So it's really fulfilling
Mhm.
to be able to create something, from just like a seed of an idea. I mean, just think about like those early days when we were dreaming up our businesses and probably chatting about it with a girlfriend or something over wine, and then being able to take it from that idea into something that you're doing every
Mhm.
day.
Yeah. It's a creation.
Yeah, for sure. What are some of the things, Emily, in the beginning days that you found joyful and different from moving from being, from a nurse and
Yeah.
doing 9 to 5 corporate type of world?
Well, 7 to 7.
Well, yeah.
6:30 to
12-hour shifts,
6:30
let's
to
be
8:30
honest.
p.m. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But corporate nonetheless, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I brought this up in the last episode, and I'll reiterate because it's the absolute most joyful thing about it for, I don't know, I don't really use the term free spirit, but uh for lack of a better word, I guess, for a person like me, that autonomy and that ability to decide what going to work means for you every day. Is so much better than the restrictive nature of other entities and other people just deciding every bit of that for you. And in all that process, not having the resources that you need to do, your job in a way that feels ethical. And I mean, all those things compounding just is soul draining. It really is. So when you get to a point where you are not following the true path that is meant for your soul, once you lock in and are able to feel like you're following that path on your own business, in your own creation, I mean, that to me is one of the biggest feelings of joy and fun that there is, even if the money's not quite flowing.
Yeah, I think too, like you said, the autonomy, those moments when you realize, oh, I don't have to take a PTO for this.
Yeah.
I can just go get this done. I can make my own schedule, I can go away on a Tuesday or go to the beach if I really wanted to, or, just stuff like that. And it feels weird at first
Mm-hmm.
because you feel like you
Yeah.
shouldn't be doing that,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's like Monday through Friday, and then you get your weekend is the norm, societal norm. And so now it's like, oh, wait, no, if I want to take off Mondays and not have the Sunday scaries anymore, I'm going to take off Mondays and I'll make my work week Tuesday through Friday, or, whatever. You can kind of make it up as you go. There are
Yeah. If you can make it
no
work, the sky's
rules.
the limit, basically.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just removing that limit, I think. And I think we kind of touched a little bit on that in that last episode as well. And especially, I think I talked about it being in transition and in my first year, getting out of that like scheduled mentality and being more in the flow of things. And obviously, you need to have some kind of schedule, but it's not like you have to
By
work
your
from 9 to
design.
5.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I agree on that too. And I think the work culture has changed so much. I left around 3 years ago, and things have shifted even more so since the pandemic. But I mean, you can tell us too, Michelle, it's not like the workday is 9 to 5 anymore and weekends off, because now there's a lot more appointments that are taken at home. So work is coming into the household anyway, and you really are working more than a 9 to 5, than even what I was familiar with in the corporate world. But yeah, the idea of being able to, you mentioned this too, Michelle, the idea of having the routines and, the framework of a day, there's some comfort in that. And you can recreate it in your
yes.
own way, to make you feel that familiarity and comfort and security in what you're doing, in something that feels, very creative and unexpected every day. But yeah, Emily, with shifting from working in nursing and getting into your own business, did you feel that I mean, I always say this all the time too, like the years fly by now,
Oh my
having my own
God.
business, like flies by. It feels like,
I feel like it's a
you
different
know,
lifetime.
right.
I
It
really do. I'm
is.
like, what did I do before this?
Yeah. It's kind of like when you get in a relationship and you're like, I can't remember anybody before you.
Mhm. Yeah. Or if it's you
Yeah,
guys.
it's a
What
yeah, it's a
what did we
different
do
timeline.
before the collab?
Yeah.
What did we do before the collab?
No, I
I mean, that's
mean,
a significant part of the joy too, though, right? Like, is sure you leave the work culture and you leave like the forced work teams that are created in the departments that someone else chooses for you. And when you have your own business, you get to choose who
mhm.
your work teams are.
Well, and it's sort of that like just open lane to create the golden ticket of careers, which is doing work that doesn't feel like work. And, the entire point of this is in the first year. I mean, it absolutely does feel like work. It's a ton of work while you figure out what work is necessary and what work is not, and all those sort of things. But you really have that freedom to get yourself to that point where what you're doing is not, even if it feels like work, it's not suffering. It's not
It's not stagnant. We were just
it's
talking
not
about the
stagnant,
energy of
right?
stagnation,
Yeah.
and how, like, even if it's a successful day, and you're having that, like, okay, this is the recipe to get success in my day, and I got all my stuff done, and we got the big account or whatever, but there's that feeling of stagnation because there's no ingredient of change in that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And then along those same lines of choosing, your teams or who you're going to collaborate with, you also eventually get to a point where you choose the clients you work with and the
Mm-hmm.
clients you don't want to work with. And,
Mm-hmm.
when you're in a regular corporate position, you a lot of you can't choose who you're put with or who your boss ends up being, and you're kind of just have to deal with it. You can't, I mean, you can walk away, anybody can walk away from a job, but it's not that simple, as if you had a client and you can just say I'm not going to work with this person. So that's
Mm-hmm.
another positive and freedom type of thing as well.
Mm-hmm.
um
And you have to, I would say, experience the um non-ideal client a few times.
Absolutely.
Hopefully not more than a few times, but to understand what that really means. Because you do come from that mindset off, or at least I did in the beginning of like you're scraping for every client you can get. So you'll, bend over backwards and do things schedule wise that you don't really want to do, and certain clients will kind of try to just take and take and take um, wherever you are willing to give. So I think you have to experience that a few times before you get to that place where you understand that you do not need every client and that you can really choose to attract who your ideal clients are.
Yeah, and I think that also brings up a point of, why it can be difficult to make that jump into your own business if you've been in a, you know, career for 20 years and
Where you do
you're
try to
almost
get
like,
numerically as many clients as humanly possible,
yeah.
basically.
Yeah, but you like, it's hard at first to think about. It's exciting to think about, okay, I'm going to start a business, I'm going to have freedom, I'm going to have all these things, but then at the same time you're essentially almost starting over. And if you're already at a
Yeah.
level, even though you don't like where you're at, it's comfortable, and after a certain time you're done for the day. And so like you said, the first year there, you do have to put in a lot of work. You end
Mhm.
up probably working more than you were working in your 9 to 5 job.
Mhm.
However, once you can get through that part, I guess that was our point of, the last episode too, was like, this is the real deal here, but it's so worth it on the other side.
Right, and it goes
So
along with the idea, sorry, Michelle, of
no, that's okay.
just anything great is you have to, is going to be hard to obtain, basically, or
Yeah,
you're
and
going to have to work
even
to
in
obtain.
like the situation I'm in, where I'm like in both feet are in both worlds still, um, there'll come a point where it's going to be like, okay, it's time to take the jump, the final jump, and when is it going to get to where, I'm going to have to make that decision. I mean, I know that's the goal. Of course, that's the goal, but you still get stuck in that like safety, even though there really
Mhm.
is no true safety. But so I guess the reason I'm saying this or feeling called to say this is just for anybody, listeners out there that are in that situation or wanting to leave their career and start again, because it can be so scary, but it's worth it,
Mhm.
definitely, getting through all of that. But like we're saying right now, there's a lot of joys too in the beginning and
For sure.
excitement.
For
Yeah.
sure.
So I think that kind of might be a good place to talk about the sustainability and adaptability of businesses.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, because
so
because same as the body does not like stagnation, the energy around you in your environment does not like stagnation either. So whether that stagnation comes from complacency because you have nailed the big project, or things have worked out for you a certain way, You always have to be able to adapt to the inevitable changes of your clients' needs, the economy, the market, like every, trends, whatever is applicable to your industry. Um, but it's sort of easy to get stuck on something that worked for you or something that felt good for a little while, and to um not to be hesitant to take that step forward to make the unknown changes, even already within your business that you've started, to make the sort of changes into the unknown to make sure that your business does not stagnate and
Yeah,
that
and
your
I think that goes
creativity
into
doesn't
the
stagnate. Mhm.
yeah, and the adaptability of change that's one of the biggest things that you get so used to being, like you said, stagnant almost, and going into business and having a business, you really have to be open to change, or at least learn how to manage change or manage your own emotions around change, because I mean, it's just a silly thing, but it's true. Change is the only constant.
Change is the only
So it's going to happen, so it's how you adapt to that change. And that takes time. I mean, it
Mhm.
takes time, like you said, of getting those clients that you might not want at first. It
Mhm.
takes time of
Learning on the
learning your
job.
market. I mean, I'm still learning every single
Mhm.
day,
Yeah,
just,
same.
being so new. So, what about you, Lisa? I mean, I'm sure you've got a lot of wisdom on this.
Yeah, I mean, everything you both are saying about the idea of creating that sustainable business does involve you having to navigate the changes in all of the environments. So think about when you are forming all of your foundations in that first year. It's like setting up camp, right? So you're going to like form the foundation of where you're going to set up camp for a community for like a long trip or something like that. It needs to have the resources to be able to sustain it. And it needs to have the resources to be able to sustain it through all of the seasons. So, say you're setting up camp for like a year long journey and you are trying to make it livable for you and your friends. You might have a great spot that's been cleared out with a great foundation. And in the spring, you have a garden that's plentiful for everybody. And it might be sunny on that side of the mountain at that time of year. But then the seasons change. And that foundation that you worked so hard to create, even though you love it so much, you can't cling to it because it works so well for you in the spring. You might need to uproot and totally move to the other side of the mountain because that's where the sun's going to hit that time of the year. And maybe that's where you're going to have your gardens growing. So there's the idea of in that first year of business, you kind of fall in love with the systems that you create once you start to be rewarded by the money coming in, and you're like, I can do this. This system works. This pricing works. I love these clients. This is the type of work that lights me up. And then things start to change in the environment, and you're like, it's not working. So though you love what you created so much, you can't keep revisiting something thinking it's going to work because you're holding on to it. I remember in the corporate world there was like that idea of creating like a what was it called? There was all these acronyms, by the way, that cracked me up in business.
Oh,
But
yes.
yeah, so like it, for example, talking about attrition in business and wanting to retain employees, you would come up with like every employee would come up with like, what is your daily list of things that you do? And then pass that on to the next person that takes your role. Well, that shouldn't that shouldn't be the idea that you take into owning your own business. And actually, I don't even think that's something that's sustainable in a large corporation either, because of how fast everything is changing these days. So it's almost like being able to be the most adaptable and the most flexible is the recipe for success. So while you might have gotten a big client and gotten a big success and experienced a lot of growth in your own business, that doesn't mean don't keep looking for the next thing. You need to be planting seeds in other areas to be able to sustain you through all the seasons. So, yeah, so I would say, like, just like we're doing this podcast together and we do work together outside of this podcast, we have a lot of seeds planted, right? So that means making sure that your foundations they go beyond your backyard, they go beyond your pretty website or your Facebook page or your Instagram account that can be hijacked at any moment. Someone
My
figures out
my
your
friends,
password.
That
my
two-factor
friends,
authentication.
yeah, my friends was just hijacked this week. As a matter of fact, her business page.
It's so sad
Mm.
because sometimes that's the only imprint there is of a new business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
And
guess that's
Yeah,
a good kind
that's a
of
good
side
point.
tip, is to never rely on one thing, one idea, one stream of income. And it's also necessary for innovation. And if you're an entrepreneur, I mean, I imagine that it's important to you to be innovative in your field. So, you have to be able to change and adapt to to be innovative. And
yeah,
it's
and Emily, we
spiritually
were talking
too.
about this. I'm sorry. I can't even see you right now. Your camera went off, but um, this reminds me of our conversation, Emily, that we had yesterday while we were working out together. Is the idea of visibility in a business? It goes beyond any kind of imprint that you have, even virtually. But there's that idea of getting out there in the community as well. So it's, to your point, there needs to be more than one touch point
hmm Oh,
for
I
you, for
had
people to find you.
referenced a Gary V little reel that I saw as well, that I thought put it really in a cool way. And somebody had asked him, how do you manage with so many things going on at once? And obviously, to paraphrase, he said, I give myself permission to make mistakes and to not be great at everything I touch. He said, I'm okay with juggling 30 balls at one time because I know that I'm okay with dropping 18 of them and, doing something with the other 12. Um so there's that sort of idea of just being present in as many places, and acting on as many ideas as you have, and just being okay with a lot of them not working. But then
Yeah.
you're in so many places that, something's bound to take hold.
I
Yeah,
like
and I
that
think
he does that.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I think that's a good also, you know, thing to bring up about just do it. Just do it messy. Don't
Mm-hmm.
worry about being
Mm-hmm.
perfect.
Right.
Perfection is like the number one killer of action.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know personally for me, it's like I've had to really just let go of so much and just kind of just do it, you know. Um, put that one foot in front of the other and just go for it.
And from a more, I guess, spiritual or mindset perspective, it's about cultivating that neutrality as well, so that you're not attached to any one particular outcome or any one particular path to an outcome. You set your goals, of course, but you remain neutral as to whether they happen exactly as you imagine. And, that you keep your options open that way.
Yeah, and it's that awareness, I think, that you gain as an entrepreneur, solopreneur, anyone starting off in that realm, is that higher, you're forced to have that observer
Mm.
energy about you. You're forced to have that higher view of your surroundings, of the landscape and that you're working in, of yourself, how you're showing up, and that's exciting. And that is, I think, something that would show up as a joy for me, is getting to know yourself a little bit more and having
Mhm.
that courage and satisfaction in knowing that you can do the hard stuff.
Mhm.
And also going back to autonomy, you're not having someone dictate, because you are becoming the researcher. You're becoming the person that's navigating.
You get to
Um,
define what success means.
yes.
Yeah, and actually I can attest, I had a actual personal experience this week of doing something hard with a client, and I was scared as hell, but then just was like, nope, I'm going to keep pushing through. I'm going to get this done. I'm going to do what I need to do. And it was a huge learning opportunity. And at the end, I was like, oh my gosh, I can do hard things. And I know I can do hard things. We all can sit there and say that, but I feel like, I don't want to say like it's an initiation, like, that, because I don't want people, I don't know how I'm trying to explain this, but I don't want people to think like you have to suffer through. That's why we're giving these podcasts, to try to help people navigate. And,
Yeah,
but I still think there are some things that you do need to go through in your first year
absolutely.
that are
That's
just
how
such
you
huge
learn.
learning experiences. And it turned out to be super positive in the end. And just a reminder that, okay, I can do this. I'm ready for the next challenge, and then I'll up level, and you just keep kind of up leveling yourself. And it ended up actually being really exciting. And
Yeah,
yeah,
because
I can
just
remember.
like in life, in business, when, something quote unquote bad or even just challenging is happening, something doesn't go the way you expect it to go. Just like in other aspects of life, if you approach this situation with the mindset of, okay, what am I supposed to be learning from this? Then ultimately it does turn out positive every
Yeah,
time.
it makes me think of strength training too. I mean, there's times,
Exactly.
Emily, when I show up and I'm just like, you tell me how much the weights are, and I'm like, nope, that's crazy. I'm not going to be able to do that. And then I can't do it. But if I'm, just show up and I look at it as what it is, and,
It's
do the
necessary
foundation
to
work.
fail in
Right.
weightlifting and in business and in life to progress, because you
Mhm.
don't ever know your true limits unless you test them. And sometimes you will figure out that limit because you don't lift the weight. You don't get the thing done that you thought you were going to get done. But you don't then drop the weight and just look at it as you're this terrible failure. No, you're like, okay, I know my strength limits, and maybe I can look at these other factors and see what I need to do in the upcoming weeks to approach that better next time, and to progress and to pick up that weight.
Yeah, I know. I used to always say, don't tell me the wait till after.
Yeah. I have a lot of
Let
people
me
that do
just do
that.
it, and then you can
I
tell me
get
after,
psyched
so I
out.
don't psych myself out.
Mm.
But no, 100%. Like, you definitely, if you, like you said, if you approach it as like each step is a learning and a step up to the next,
Mhm.
is a good way to look at it. It makes it feel more positive than
And
scary.
then when you do get that achievement, it feels so much sweeter because you've, you know, failed it before. And then you put in the additional work to get it done the next time.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because I think failure just isn't in a lot of people's vocabulary. I mean, think about it. You go through school and it's like if you failed a test, you get in trouble,
Right.
or if you fail
Right. It's a bad
this or
thing.
that,
Yeah.
it's bad. And so
It's always a
you're already
negative thing, or it's like the
associating.
end of something. It's like you do not pass, you shall not pass.
Yeah. And so as you get older, failure, you've got it so ingrained that failure is bad, but actually in business, failure is good. It's better to keep failing because you're so much closer, like you said, to something really great and
I
the
wish I could
sweetness
remember
of it.
where I saw this, but someone somewhere on the internet was talking about how we should start teaching kids even that failure is actually a positive thing because it means you're, taking the steps. And that doesn't
And
mean
you're
like
okay. And you're okay after
right,
you
and you're
fail.
okay. You're not, it's not the end. It doesn't mean you can't do the thing.
You didn't get put in jail for making a failure in your day or messing
Right.
up that appointment or,
Right.
dropping the ball on something. What is that? And I don't know, Emily, but is it called progressive overload
Yes.
in our workout? It's
You
like
do
progressive
know.
overload of
Doing
business.
more overtime. And that requires failing sometimes.
But sometimes, Emily, it means like putting like a 1 pound weight on
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
1 pound at a time. So
Yeah.
you
Oh,
can
yeah.
still get to those big numbers, 1 pound, 5 pounds at a time. It doesn't need to
You
be
can. I mean, can you
1
imagine
pound
if you
plates.
even put 5 pounds on the bar every week? You would be a superhero, like non-human strength after 1 year. You can't expect just linear, perfect progress in the weight room or anywhere else. It just doesn't work like that.
Yeah,
It's always
sure.
a ebb and flow.
So it sounds like one of the big takeaways would be failure's good.
Yeah.
Lose the
Failure's good. Failure is
failure.
better than standstill.
Yeah.
What we were talking
Mm.
about earlier today when we were getting together is it's better to fail and to do the little steps than it is to just stand still and rest on something that once worked before.
Yep.
It's like a sure way to kill your business.
Mhm.
And it's, I think too, just going back to some of the feedback we were getting from listeners and friends about their first year in business. And we're so lucky to be surrounded by such a huge community of people in businesses now, which is exciting and affirming. But I think a big takeaway is, yeah, there's no recipe. I can't take my recipe, what's working for me necessarily, and hand it over
Mhm.
to someone else because it's a personal journey. So it's your energy that needs to show up and be and going back to we've been talking about authenticity a lot too. It needs
Mhm.
to match your and who you are and why you are here to be
Mhm.
doing what you're doing. So when you see those promises of, you know, oh yeah, we started out doing $3,000 months and now we're doing $50,000 months in under a year, that's, just I
Bullshit.
can it's bull yeah, it's bull. I can understand why people are getting despondent at that,
Mhm.
um, and feeling like, "Oh gosh, I'm so far from that." It's not progressive overload to have that
No.
type of
No, it's not.
miraculous. You can't throw enough spaghetti at the wall to come up with a formula to do that on a regular.
Mhm. Mhm. I love the
Yeah.
spaghetti on the wall analogy too. You just keep throwing spaghetti, and if you're really lucky, maybe like half of it will stick. Probably not half of it. Right? But what sticks, then you just keep following the spaghetti? Is that
You can eat that
eat
spaghetti
it?
because it didn't fall on the floor.
Eat the spaghetti that sticks?
There's no 5-second rule in business if it falls in the I'm just kidding. I got that
That's
wrong
deep.
maybe. Dang it. But
I
yeah, I mean, I think this is an important conversation, and I think it's a different talking about the sustainability and creating the people that you collaborate with in projects and the energy that you invite in before you become a big entity where you actually have a board of directors, your friends and your collaborators become that. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's being able to be aware of your surroundings. Who are you sharing your ideas with? And are you able to together learn how are things changing? How are you adapting? Really being those think tanks for one another. And it is an inside job. It's not a one person job though. So I
Yeah,
hope that
and
makes
another
sense.
thing too that I've been learning recently, and um, this might sound counterintuitive to what we've been talking about, is absolutely, you want to ebb and flow with your market and this, the economy and all those things. But I've also found kind of, if everybody's doing it one way, I feel like do the opposite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Don't get so stuck in comparing yourself and oh, they're doing it this way, so I have to do it this way, or,
Right.
do the opposite. And I've been feeling that a lot lately and trying to do that, even with, everybody's all about the reels right now. And yes, I understand that the reels are, important because of the way the algorithms work with, with social media. And so they're being used more, but it's like, I'm feeling like, no, I don't want to do reels. I want to do something different,
Yeah.
So, um, that's just an example,
And
and
even if it's
no
not
offense to anybody
opposite,
doing reels, but
yeah, yeah, no. Even if it's not opposite, if it's not authentic to you, like you're just like, I just don't want to do them, then that, I mean, if you started doing reels just because you're quote unquote supposed to, then they might not be successful anyway because the authenticity factor is missing. You're like, I don't want to do this.
exactly.
So if
Exactly.
you do what is authentic to you, whether or not it goes, you know, exactly with what everybody else in your field is doing, that's the most important factor for sure. I like to
Yeah.
do very, very light market research, like just have the vaguest idea, of what the other guys are doing, and then I just let go of it.
Yeah, I was listening to another podcast, a while back, and they were talking about how when they started their business, it was like 1999 or 2000. So the internet was just getting ready to peak and get like, big. And so this person was just kind of trying all these things and had no clue what other people were doing because they didn't have access
Mhm.
to see what other people were doing.
Mhm.
And so she was saying that it's kind of sad, not sad, but it's more difficult nowadays psychologically for people that are coming out to start businesses because there's so much information
Mhm.
and access. So it almost trips you up rather than
Yep.
those days when you literally had no clue how other people were doing it. You're just in your own little world and trying to
Yeah.
make it work, And then she, over time, now this is 99, 2000. Now she is multimillionaire, but that's been years of trying different things. Um, it was she didn't have anybody to compare to, so she just did it. She didn't
Yeah.
know any different. Now immediately it's like, okay, I want to start a business. Okay, let me go to my 12 influencers and see what they're doing. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Before you even like just get in your own creative genius zone.
Right.
So I thought that was really interesting when she said that. That was such a huge point because it's so true, you
It
know.
reminds me, I don't know why. It reminds me of when I found out I was pregnant and I'm like trying to put together like a baby shower registry. And you go through and you see all the like must have lists that people have put together. And I'm like, do you really need this much shit to like have a baby in your house? Like, do you have
To
to
have a
turn your house
tiny
into a
human?
daycare? Or can I do this like a little bit differently? Maybe instead of a rocker and a swing and a freaking whatever you call those things that you sit on the counters, and like maybe I just need like one thing to put my little person in, and that'll be
Yeah.
enough. And so just sort of doing it my own way and not going with like all the different things that everybody just said you had to have, I think was probably a lot less stressful. And it's like the episode where we were talking about tips to simplify and optimize your health. It's like when you go on there and you're trying to figure out how to put together a workout regimen or how to eat, like you get so much information that you're just like, well, I can't really eat anything. Like,
Yeah. And you get
everybody
to a point,
demonizes something.
you get to a point where it's like, just freaking go back to basics, man.
Yeah.
You know?
No, just tune out all the noise and tune into your intuition and do it the way your authentic self wants to do it.
Yeah. Anything else on that, Lisa, before we wrap this up?
Oh gosh. I mean, I really love this topic. I feel like there'll be a part 3. I mean, this is going to be a continuing real talk, I think, for us, because we are just continuing to, we were just talking about there's, gas prices are rising, and what does that do to our prices, and what does that do to our customer experiences and how we're showing up. So this is going to be a continual involvement, but overall, I think there's a joy in the journey and the process. And there is a self-discovery in creating the foundations of your business. And it's not easy in that first year, but it feels good because it's something that you're doing for yourself. And for a lot of people, if you really believe in your service, your product, your business and what you're doing, you believe that you're doing something to better the lives of someone else. And that's
your why. Yeah, that's
great.
The one of the main things I think to keep coming back to the joyful elements of it is to always have your authentic why.
And get specific with that, not just to not be in corporate or freedom. Like, why do you want freedom? What type of freedom? Like, is it mental freedom? Is it freedom to go to the beach every Friday? Is it freedom to take your kids to school? Like,
no wrong answers.
Get super specific, because the more you can connect with that why, the feeling, the more sustainable you will be throughout that first year or two when things get hard.
And I think what keeps you going too is even when times are tough. And oftentimes it's when things are the toughest is when you get that thank you or that testimonial that someone's showing up and saying, you really helped me. You helped me change my life. And that's worth more than anything in encouraging you to keep going.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
So did we cover the I hope everyone's like still hanging in there and feeling definitely I would be curious to hear, from more people in their first years, like, is this how business is showing up for them? Are we answering their questions fully?
Yeah, so definitely, as always, send us any questions or stories that you might have on this topic, whether you've started your own business or you're thinking about starting your own business. Send us a DM at Conscious Collaboration Podcast on Instagram, or send us an email to consciouscollaborationpodcast@gmail.com. We want to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's been, as always, a great time talking with you both. And as Emily said, please reach out to us with any questions or any topics you want to hear. We have some exciting guests coming in the next couple of weeks that we're really happy to share with you. So thanks again for joining us, and we'll talk to you in 5 minutes.
Talk to you in 5.
Bye.
Peace.
Thank y'all so much for listening to our podcast. If you haven't yet, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share with all your friends so they can join our circle of collaboration on this journey.
You can find us on Instagram at Conscious Collaboration Podcast, on Spotify, iTunes, and Audible, to name a few. Please join us next time for another deep dive into how you can live life in more alignment, mind, body, and business. Send us your questions and comments in our DMs or email us at consciouscollaborationpodcast@gmail.com. See you in 5 minutes.